Hello, everyone. I'm Aidis, and we're at LithuaniaPy number 3 meetup of Lithuanian Python community. And today we'll have a presenter, Paulius from Oxylabs. But before he starts, I would like to say just a small thank you to Oxylabs, who's helping us not only by sponsoring this event and other Python events in Lithuania, but also for asking Paulius to share his experience with us. So without further ado, I would like to invite Paulius to give us a presentation. Anytime you're ready, Paulius.
Great, thank you, Aidis. So hello, as Aidis mentioned, my name is Paulius. I'm a software engineer at Oxylabs, and I deal with business intelligence, and a lot of that is web scraping. We have a bunch of microservices in mostly with Python. Microservices deal with web scraping, and well, a couple of years ago, we started implementing headless solutions for web scraping, and I'm going to share a bit of my experience with that. So let's get started. So yeah, I'm going to talk about headless browsers and how can you utilize them in Python. So to start, I guess not everyone might know what headless browsers are. So, well, headless browsers, as the name implies, are web browsers without a UI. Now, it's not that they are, it's not the part that they are without a UI, is that they can run without a UI. That's the distinction, and which opens up the possibility of running them on servers that do not have GUI and cannot render the UI. And but the main thing is the automation. Now, so these browsers can be automated via CLI or via network, and that's where the whole point of them comes in. So usually they're used for web scraping in our case, and front-end testing in, well, for front-end engineers. The whole purpose of them in web scraping is that while you might think, yeah, I mean, you can just download the HTML by using, you know, the requests, IOHTTP libraries, PyCurl, whatever. The thing is that a lot of pages rely on Java, load their content asynchronously via JavaScript. Once the HTML is loaded, which contains the JavaScript, it does calls to the backend, and so mostly pumps in the dynamic parts of the page and touches the data. So in certain cases, well, you know, on some sites, this may mean that a simple GET request will get you nothing but you know, the basic layout of the page and no data, which you're interested in. So I'm going to mention a couple of solutions that you might have heard of. I'm pretty sure that you've at least heard of Selenium. So Selenium is still probably the de facto top framework used for front-end testing. Mostly because of point 3, that it supports multiple languages. It supports a lot of languages, and one of them is Java, and a lot of systems to this day, websites still use Java. But it has some quirks, like one thing, it's unreliable. There are cases where a website that hasn't changed at all will occasionally fail. Tests written in Selenium, then they pass, then they fail. So, and it's very hard to debug, also a bit resource heavy. Now, Splash is, it stands out from the libraries that I will mention, and Selenium, it's, one thing, it's a trim browser. It's written in Python, but I'll mention later that it doesn't that doesn't offer any advantages to Pythonistas such as ourselves. And it doesn't run on any web drivers of today. It's like a browser built from the ground up, and it runs as a service. So you communicate with it via network requests, which may be a con, maybe a pro for you. So, for example, the libraries I will talk about, you can just integrate any headless browsing right into your code, and just you can have one Python script that does something, then launches a headless browser, fetches some data, then continues on. This requires a separate service, and for your script to communicate with that service. So it's a bit buggy and a bit limited in cases, well, because one thing, for example, like written here, there is a case where sites just use a content security policy header, which forbids JavaScript evaluation, arbitrary code in a page context. And normally you could work around that, but Splash doesn't have any ability. So to do that, so the only option is putting a proxy in between Splash and your target and stripping that header. So that's quite an annoying thing to have to deal with. And it has stability issues. We actually run Splash in production. And so it took us about a year to get it stable enough for us to be somewhat happy with it. For one thing, it leaks memory, and it will eat up all the memory that you give it. So we dealt with that by limiting, forcing the Docker containers it runs in to restart whenever a certain memory limit has reached. Another thing, it sometimes just freezes, and that's it. It just idles out. So we had to set up cron jobs to restart the services, well, the Docker containers every few hours. That was one of the solutions. So also there are certain targets or sites that if you try to load in Splash, it will just freeze, and that's it. So yeah, it's a bit finicky and buggy. Well, it was for a long time maintained only by one person. Yeah, and so now, and the advanced features, I mean, most basic features you can do via a request to it. Just simply, put a wait time in your request parameters. For example, that's the duration to wait for JavaScript to execute after the HTML has been loaded. You can send a proxy to use, and all of these minor features. But to do anything advanced, like find an element, click on it, and so on, maybe save the first response headers, that requires Lua scripting. And it's a bit weird. You have to like send that script via your request, and it's included in a payload. So if it's very large, then, I mean, your network traffic increases. I mean, it's not probably very relevant, but still. Okay, so now let's move on to the future. And so, well, the now. So Pyppeteer. Now, Pyppeteer is a port of Puppeteer. That is a JavaScript library. It's a headless browsing lib that is based on Chromium, the Chrome WebDriver. It communicates with it via the DevTools protocol, and it solves a lot of problems that Splash has, for example. It supports both headful and headless modes. It can run headless, but if you want to see what's happening, as I will show you pretty soon, you can run it in. It has a UI and possibility to render it. It's built on a Sync.io. That's good, but it also means that you cannot run it in synchronous code, or at least you'll have difficulty with it. So, and as I usually say, showing is better than telling. So I'll show you a bit how it works. So here we have, I've written a bit of examples for the libs I will discuss. I will upload these to GitHub later. So maybe tomorrow I need to clean it up a bit. So here we have code. Oh, it's a bit small, but okay. I hope everyone can see. So it's very simple to launch a browser. Here, then we get a new page from it. Actually, this is if you wanna will try to do this yourself and so on. You'll find that this is how everyone every tutorial says how to use it, but actually the browser starts already with a tab, so it's actually better to just do this, get the pages, and the page is the first page. That way you won't have two tabs open when you start it. So, and here's just an example. Run it, the browser starts up, goes to the page, and you can later on now I set it to wait and sleep for 5 seconds. Oh, actually I forgot to close it. That's nasty. Yeah. And we can also be like fetch the content of the page because you want to see. So this is just a simple example of fetching one page. Okay. And here, fetch the content. So, okay, so that's a simple example. Now, one thing you're dealing with a lot with scraping is bot detection. Websites don't want to, well, a lot of websites don't want to be scraped. So they have ways of detecting that you're a bot. So dealing with that, headless browsers kind of themselves have kind of lower your bot detection threshold. I mean, if you're doing a request via HTTP, your like user agent is HTTP, so that's pretty obvious. So you need to spoof the headers and work with other stuff. A lot of bot detection depends on JavaScript, and it can find that you're not rendering anything, and that means you're a bot. So here's an example. This is a good page to test that. This one actually works on detecting if you are using headless Chrome. Now I'll run this, let me just show, I've run this in headless mode. And it says you're not Chrome headless. So, but this is misleading. The thing is that when you're not running in headless mode and running in headful, a lot of bot detection passes. But when you actually run in headless, just wait for the script to finish. Now, you see, I'm going to blah, blah, blah page, going to the test URL, waiting a bit and taking a screenshot. So let's look at the screenshot, and it says we've been detected as a bot. So here's like, probably this is the only, well, the most important tip I can give you is there's this library called Pyppeteer Stealth. It's on PyPy, so you can just pip install Pyppeteer Stealth, and we have it, and it's very easy to use. Import stealth, and what this is, it basically runs certain JavaScript code that does a lot of spoofing to ensure that you look like a real browser. So, for example, there's dead giveaways like history length. Come on, how many people just open their browser and go directly, let's say if you're scraping products from a website, and go directly to that site. Usually most people will have some history, and so they went to at least the main page, then they went somewhere else, maybe a search, then they went to the product. So this is one example. Second of all, it spoofs locale and a lot of stuff to match what the match your headers with other stuff. Well, yeah, hard to explain, but so, and now if we rerun this, I've now evaluated the stealth usage, and you can see now we're not Chrome headless. So pretty useful library. It's it still has it's not perfect, and it's not really maintained at the moment. In our company, we actually have our own fork where we've improved it, but I'm just using the basic stuff here, and it already is good enough to fail this website. Well, to full. Okay. So yeah, I bet skipped a bit. So I want to show you the whole point. Well, I mentioned about why we need headless, and JavaScript loading asynchronously data into the DOM. So I just want to show you this in action. So I took a Google Flights URL. Google Flights loads all of the data via synchronous JavaScript calls. And so I have here, I'm getting it via Headless Browser, the same URL, and via request library. So if I run this, you can see. Okay. Now here, for example, you can already see in the content length. Well, I hope you can see. Actually, why did this get? Well, whatever. There's like 200 kilobytes of extra data in there. And if we open the HTMLs, so here we have our flights, we have the map now. And let's see, with regular requests, Zoom slowing me down to no end. Yeah, we have no flights, we have this thingy. Well, actually this agreement, I'm a bit cheated. I used another functionality of Headless to, well, Pyppeteer to get rid of that. One thing, first of all, I tried to do it like this. This, by the way, doesn't work because Google is pretty clever. So I was, you can get elements via XPath from the page with Pyppeteer. So I found this element when I was checking the site and inspecting it. And I thought, well, yeah, that button, and I thought, well, this is easy. That button has an intro agree button. Well, the idea of intro agree button is a very simple XPath. And so I thought I'll just send a click event to it, and that will be done to get rid of that. So that's not the case, because here I'll show you some, yeah, I should go in incognito to trigger that. My God, this is slow. Wait, no, okay. There we go. Okay, and let's see. So I copy this XPath, right? So as I mentioned, I first inspected, and then I was weird why I did not find the elements. So here I execute the XPath. There's no element. Now, if I inspect it and go back, suddenly there it is. So it's just something, it's a bit off topic, but yeah, something you have to deal with. They're being very clever and using misdirection and only trigger some code to put in these simple to find and to use IDs. So as to throw you off their trail, and then you're just tearing out your hair, wondering why is this list empty. So I went ahead and figured out that two tabs. Well, I first opened it up in Headless and found that if I hit tab twice and then enter, I just hit agree. So, and yeah, that's when I execute this. And bam, it disappears. So yeah, that's another feature of Pyppeteer. You can send keyboard commands and it will execute just as if it was in the browser. Okay, and talked about detection. This is just an example for when you want to use a proxy. Hope this works because I couldn't, well, give away any of our proxies. So this is from a free proxy. So yeah, you just, these are other arguments. Start maximize, for example, opens the whole, well, maximizes the browser. And no sandbox, it's just, it kind of disables certain security features, but those security features can flag you as a bot on certain sites. So, so yeah, and I'll just to prove that, we have 5182, whatever. Let's see if that works. Yeah, 518182.175. This is a US proxy. So in case you're wondering how to use the proxy server, note that the proxy server is within a browser context, not a page context. So you can't have multiple tabs running on different proxies if you need that. Also, there's two ways. If you have a proxy that requires authentication, you can call page authenticate, or you can just send a proxy authentication header. Okay, so these are just some examples of Pyppeteer. Now, another library I'd like to mention, that's Playwright. Now, Playwright is very new. The Python library for Playwright is even newer and is still a bit fresh and a bit buggy. It's in alpha development. You can try to use it, I guess not in production, but it's written by the same team, well, mostly by the same team that worked on Pyppeteer. And also it's endorsed by Microsoft. So I guess they're now a part of Microsoft. So I guess the funding is better and so on. So the difference to Pyppeteer, it's, well, the API is pretty similar, but thing is it can run 3 different drivers. Well, Pyppeteer runs only on Chromium. Playwright supports Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit. And it also supports synchronous. So yeah, not only sync. So a bit of Playwright examples just to show. So here we're gonna run access some websites, and I'll show you why this is an alpha stage. Yeah, by the way, stuff doesn't work for this, but it could be adapted. I guess we ourselves might work on it, as it's just JS directives and could be ported easily. I guess no one can be arsed with that. So yeah, here we're gonna run just wait, just to show it. I'm gonna run it in not in headless mode. So yeah, the first time you run this, unless you run, I'll show you the command, it will download all free drivers. So now it's see on Chromium. Now it's Firefox. And he picks of appropriate UA, passes Vistas, does not pass this. And this is on WebKit. So yeah, that's nice. Mostly because even though if you want to, well, a lot of times when scraping, you want to have a bunch of different user agents, and there are because sometimes websites block you by IP and user agent combination. So you might want to rotate different user agents. With Headless, sometimes certain sites have ways of detecting that even though your user agent says that you are like Mozilla Firefox, they can find out that you're actually running Chromium, and Pyppeteer is limited to Chromium. So this pretty much triples your usable user agents. So that's one nice feature. Now, another one, which works kind of partially, several. One thing is it has easy device emulation. I don't even know how much is included in here, but it basically, we create a new context for, let's say, iPhone 11 Pro. One thing, it sets the viewport appropriately, it changes the user agent, and it does, I'm sure, other stuff, which I haven't gotten into yet. And the other really cool feature, it allows you to set your geolocation by coordinates within the browser. Now, this is great for when you want to like check what results, let's say a search engine results for specific geolocations. This is great for it, but I will show you that it's not, when it comes to Google, for example, it's not enough. So I've put this to Abu Dhabi coordinates, and we can see what's my location, Abu Dhabi. And so this page thinks that. However, Google knows, see, knows that I'm here. So Google has a way of seeing through that. So yeah, that's, but I mean, with an ULA cookie or parameter, I guess that would work. Yeah, this, let's see some other stuff. So the whole point. So this is when I mentioned automation of headless browsers, the whole point in scraping. So I'm going to show you how it works. So here, for example, let's say we're going to go to F1LT site, and we want to get the standings. So of the teams, and we want all of them. And this is loaded by JavaScript. So we have to click this, and then this show all of them. So here's an example. That's the team standings. So we go to the page. This is all. I'm going to use Firefox for this example. Go to that page. So it's a bit different with Playwright. As you saw, Pyppeteer, for example, you need to fetch the element first, then you call a click function on that element. Here you differently call page click and pass it away ways to identify that element. So it supports three cases, three ways to identify it: XPath, text within it, and CSS selectors. And you can also mix and match it. Just mention this is, for example, equal to text equals. So this is how you pass a parameter. If it's between quotes, it the command asserts that, well, assumes that it's to find the element by text within it. If you pass it a CSS selector, it will know that it's a CSS selector, although you can do this explicitly like this. And you can also change different selectors. So here, for example, I am finding the UL element with ID commandos, and then within that element, I'm finding looking for an element with the text is placed in. So let's see how this runs. Firefox takes a bit to load up. Oh. Bam, bam, bam. There we are. Another thing, if you're doing, let's say, you want to create a bunch of trolls on Facebook, and well, I'm not going to show with Facebook, that probably is more difficult, but so you want to create a bunch of accounts to leave likes on your pics or whatever, or troll comments. So here's an example of logging in on the same website. So we have to click here and then enter our details and hit login. Well, so here we go. This is, I just used copy CSS selector from the site for that login button. We then get, it has very well properly ID'd elements, input login username. That's mine. This is my password is imported, so you don't see. And we hit login. So let's see if that runs. Well, and I guess this also could be, well, and is used when you want to check, test your login features on a website. Here, see, my login credentials have been entered, and I'm connected. So yeah, that's about it from me. Yeah, I guess it's not super informative, but maybe you got hooked on using headless browsing or so on. So yeah, thank you for listening. And any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Paulius. Do you have any questions? We have time for 2 open questions. You can unmute yourself or you can write in chat. Okay, we have a question from Simon Strepochka. Why not, or when Pyppeteer is better than Selenium? I don't know how to read this question. Maybe Paulius, you can.
Well, from personal experiences, now I don't have a lot of experience with Selenium. I we were considering using it. One thing is that I had a lot of difficulty setting it up to use with Firefox because Selenium and the Firefox binary have to just perfectly match their versions. So that was a problem. I guess if you don't want to use Playwright and you want to run on, well, you want to run those tests on different web browsers, then yes, Selenium would be better. And I think, yeah, in testing, well, I guess Pyppeteer is more reliable. I haven't heard of any inconsistencies that Selenium has, where the situations, as I mentioned, where tests fail and then succeed on the same website. But so I would consider, if you're using Selenium and you need different browser support, I would consider moving forward with Playwright. But I would wait a bit. It's still in early development. And yeah, so Pyppeteer probably worse for testing. I'm not sure. As I mentioned, most of my experience, well, all of my experience is to do with web scraping. So never used either of these for front-end testing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have a definite answer for you.
Yeah, thanks. We have a question from Paulus. Will you share the code snippets? I believe that you will.
Yeah. I will ask Titus. He will send out GitHub link sometime tomorrow midday. Still need to a bit. I'll clean it up and I'll post them. Maybe include a proper README, and I'll include the slides as well, even though they don't have a lot of info. But well, they have the links to the libs and so on. So.
Okay, so that was a technical questions, and yes, I will share on Facebook event and through meetup platform. Any last question on the topic? If no, I have a question. You mentioned that various websites use different strategies to guard themselves from automated browsers. Can you share your, I don't know, favorite, most difficult, the ones that gave you the most head hurt?
Well, this one was interesting, as I showed that. But yeah, it's not really detection. Yeah, it's a technique that really baffled me, that Google has this trigger once you inspect that they add easy IDs to elements to make you think that you can use XPath to find them. But one actual situation for headless blocking was there's a Cloudflare has bot protection where it seemingly we couldn't break it because it never worked. Like when I showed you these examples, I ran in headful mode, and then I showed you in headless mode that, for example, that site, what website detected that it's headless, but doesn't detect with stealth. Now, even with stealth, Cloudflare has bot detection that if you're running your headless browser in headful mode, it passes. But if it's in headless, it fails and you get blocked. So, and we're running these headless instances on a server. Actually, running in headful mode is not a possibility. So the thing, actually, this was solved by a colleague of mine. He somehow like used a library to kind of spoof the rendering. What was it? It was weird, but yeah, basically you had to kind of be running in headful mode to pass that. So that's annoying. But yeah, I don't recall the solution. Probably there was like I say a Python library that kind of spoofs a graphical user interface and like, well, yeah. So it was weird, but yeah, I didn't work on that one, so can't really tell much about that.
Okay, thanks for sharing about this one. And I guess that's it for the official part of the meetup. And as I promised, I will share now into the chat the Discord link. So if you're interested to chat after a few minutes with Paulius, or you have no time today but would like to be part of the chatting Python Lithuania community, so you can join that Discord channel. And that's it. Thanks, Paulius, once again. And let's have virtual applause, I guess. I don't know. If you like the presentation, please say thank you in the chat, so Paulius knows that you appreciate it. And with this, I will be finishing the recording, and you can find the link in the chat.